Hey, you guys, it's Life of Nikki Lee podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're doing well and living your fullest every day. So, welcome to tonight's segment. It is part 2 called Temptation, and this is the second part of my 7-year celibacy. Now, last night we were basically talking about how the journey started. So, tonight we're talking about temptation. Now, just like Cat Williams said in that Shannon Sharp interview, Diddy's gonna want to party and you got to tell him no. Well, flesh, the flesh that we walk in every day, your flesh is gonna want to party and you got to tell it no. When you are starting a journey of celibacy and you already know that in itself is a challenge, you got to be ready to bear down with certain things that you're not going to be able to do anymore. For me, I had always looked at my relationships, even though they were jaded, clearly. I'd always looked at it like that was my safe space, even though that was literally not it at all. That was the furthest thing from a safe space that I was. But when you're walking in your flesh, you're distracted. That's the thing about, sex and being physically intimate with someone, especially somebody that you ain't got no business with, because you're distracted. You're distracted from the bigger picture. You're distracted from all the red flags. You're distracted from everything that you need to be paying attention to. And for me, letting all of that go, it was a challenge, but I was ready to start it because, like I said, coming out of that last situation, which was atrocious, by the way, I was ready to start anew. And I felt like God had just really gave me my papers like, look, you better get it right this time, because God, he loves us. He's our Father. He shows us things. And when we don't learn the way we should and steer the direction that he needs us to, we're going to keep getting those tap-ins, those spankings, until we do what is required to elevate ourselves. And it's very necessary. So coming into that, I said, I know it's not going to be easy, but I can do it. Well, there comes the thing of temptation. So after I started this walk of celibacy, I was like, I'm going to be single. I'm not going to deal with nobody, this, and that. I started getting approached by a lot of men, so many men. And it was just like, this is nothing but temptation from the enemy. And I had to tell myself, I was like, I know what I went through in my last situation. And in the back of your mind, you're telling yourself, if I deal with another person, can it be different? Well, so coming out of probably about a year into my walk of celibacy, like I said, I met somebody else. And that whole ordeal was not what it needed to be at all. I was very led by lust in that situation. It started off so innocent. It started off like we became the best of friends. We were talking all the time. And, being single for, all that time, you do miss the conversations and what you like about being around somebody. But when you get involved with another person, that's another energy that you have to take on. And so I noticed meeting somebody else, it started off innocent, but then the lust crept back in. And I'm telling you, if y'all are ever dealing with somebody, please take my advice when I tell you this. You would see people very different if you take lust out of the aspect of that person. Like, you will see them very different. Take lust out of it. Take your flesh out of it and just look at that person aside from all that. And I promise you, you're going to see a different person. You're going to see somebody that you probably don't mesh with that well. And I'm telling you, this is someone that I got with, and I was so eager to believe it could be different from my last situation, that once again those feelings start creeping up and you think I could totally fall in love with this person, and that person ended up honestly worse. This guy that I had been talking to, we called ourselves getting into a relationship, and I felt like it was safe. I felt like it was safe because we were at a distance from each other. So I was like, okay, sex won't happen. Don't have to rely heavy on that. And sure enough, the lustful feelings, the thoughts of wanting to entertain certain things over the phone, it crept right back in. And when you are and unfortunately, I was led astray once again. Even though I wasn't being physically intimate, I was sitting there trying to justify allowing this to go on virtually because I was led by flesh. And that flesh will get you every time. So that's going to wrap up segment part 2, and stay tuned for part 3. Nikki Lee signing out. Bye.